So, it's been a while. I thought I would give everybody an update um, and provide some type of relevant video, at least as it pertains to my life, and maybe it might yours in the future. Hopefully, not in the same context or same way that this affected me. So, initially, I guess I decided to retire and officially was able to move here to the Philippines, currently in Cebu City, August 2nd of 2023. I had already purchased my bongo truck. I'm going to do an update on that because I think that's relevant, at least to a degree. But August 2nd, 2023, so I retired here in the Philippines. I bought a motorcycle, a ZX25R. It was a really fun bike, a little bit too big for kind of what I wanted to do, kind of how I wanted to ride, but I was out one night about a month later, September 7th, and it was about 10:30 at night, and I went to pass this one individual, and not very fast, maybe 30, 35 kilometers an hour in a 40 kilometer an hour zone, and a Grab driver, knocked me into oncoming traffic. So he got scared, at least that's what we were told after the fact, knocked me into oncoming traffic, and I collided with another motorcycle head on. It ejected me from my motorcycle, and subsequently I was ran over in the street by another motorcycle. Um, so yeah, and I knew it was a big problem at that point. It wasn't something like, oh, you're just going to be able to get up and ride home and everybody's going to be fine, whatever. And so miraculously, there was EMS like very, very close. Like almost they must have seen it or something because they were there in maybe a minute or something. So, I mean, God was really watching out for everybody involved in that. And so I was taken to a public hospital. I don't know exactly which one. I guess I could ask Eileen, but I was taken there. She was called in the ambulance, so we were able to call her. I was having a hard time breathing at that time, and so I only had about maybe 12 or 15,000 pesos. We could call it 15,000 at the time. Was roughly $270 in my pocket, and that's not enough to really get admitted into a private hospital. You need to have, maybe 50 or 70,000 or something like that. At least if I'm wrong, please let me know. But they took me to a public hospital because of that. And they had put me in a bed. They transferred me, and it was extremely painful. I knew there was some significant things wrong with me at that time. And I laid there for 12 hours. Now, in between that time, Ate being my helper, she had been notified. She came up to sit with me for about 45 minutes to an hour, which was really kind of nice to see her. And I was in really bad shape. But I was laying there for about 12 hours before Eileen could make it down from Manila. She still lives in Rizal, and she comes down several times a year to see me. But whenever I saw her, there was a slight sigh of relief, even though the pain was still very immense. And, I knew at that point she was going to be able to say, well, he's got the money to be able to be transferred and pay whatever needs to be paid at a private hospital. So it took about an hour to coordinate everything. And I was then transferred from that public hospital to Changhua, which is a private hospital. And immediately got in there. They did some, patch-up stuff to me. Got me ready for x-rays, sent me over, we got x-rays. I got a CT scan. They found out, wow, man, you've got a punctured lung. You've got, like, all of your ribs on your left side are either broken or fractured. My shoulder was fractured. My shoulder blade was fractured, and then I had a slight fracture to my upper spine. And so, and then, of course, with the punctured lung, there was fluid inside, so they had to get me into surgery pretty quick to then put a drain in, and I had that for about 4 or 5 days, 6 days, something like that. One thing that I will tell you is here in the Philippines, the care is incredible. If you get to a private hospital, If you can afford it, which I tell everybody, you need to have at least $10,000, $15,000 if you're going to go through an experience like I did. It cost me right about $9,000 for everything. Also, I'll just touch real quick on this. The CT scan also uncovered that I had pseudoaneurysms on my spleen, and that I might need a splenectomy where they take out your spleen. And I really didn't want to have that happen. But with pseudoaneurysms, if they burst, you're dead. It's like over a 90% chance that you're dead, even if you're on the operating table, like right before you get there. There's not a good chance of survival, high mortality rate. So, anyways, I was in Changhua for 3 weeks, and unable to move. Really, I could move around a little bit and adjust, my lower body, but was in immense pain. And here in the Philippines, man, they really don't give you pain medicine like the West. You're going to feel everything the whole time. Now, after about 2 weeks of suffering or so, we were able to convince them slowly over time to keep upping my doses. And eventually I got the same medication that they give to cancer patients here, with a fentanyl pouch, and they were giving me all kinds of these crazy IV, injections, stuff, into the IV bags that would take some of the edge off. And maybe it's just being Western, our tolerances are just way higher, but your standard stuff here, like Tylenol, paracetamol, just doesn't do anything. Even if it's 1,000 milligrams, it doesn't do anything. It won't even take a headache away from me or anything. And so, anyways, the doctors were really great there. And so we were thinking that we might have to go in for a splenectomy. We wanted to get, a second opinion. The doctor, my main doctor in Cebu said, look, it's not so bad. We got a second opinion. PGH up in Manila wanted us to come up there and have a splenectomy. I kept putting it off. I don't know why. And we were praying about it, and I will tell you, the power of prayer is real. We had a video conference with the doctor up there, and I said, look, doc, is there any chance that this could heal on its own? And he said, look, I'm not going to tell you it can't, but in my career, I've never seen it. So the chances are almost none, I would say. And he goes, I'm not saying they're none, but it's highly unlikely. And so, fast forward 4 months or whatever it was, Eileen and I arranged to go to PGH up in Manila, and into a private room there, because it's also a public hospital. It's amazing. It's a really nice hospital. And so they get us in for a CT scan, MRI, and they come back, and the doctor just walks in and he says, here's your old one, and we got like 3 centimeter, 2 and 3 centimeter pseudoaneurysms in my spleen. And the spleen is very malleable. I won't get into all that stuff, but it's in charge of your immune system. If you have it removed, you got to have a lot of vaccines. You got to be careful who you're around. You got all this stuff. It can be an issue. And so he walks in and he shows us the old one, and then he shows us a new one, and the new one is perfect. The one we just had. He goes, for all intents and purposes, Jason, you're cured. And I knew then that the power of prayer. I mean, I knew it before then, but it's just a miracle, right? And Filipino doctors are some of the best in the world, and so I knew I was in good hands no matter what, right? The nurses are nothing but professional. The doctors are nothing but amazing, and top of their field, of course. And so, that's just my experience. I wanted to share that with you, kind of, my experience, and it took about 4 months for me to heal completely to where I could actually lay down flat on my bed. I used to have like 3 or 4 pillows up, and I could do that. That was fine, but about a full year until I could, raise my left arm all the way up and, do all that stuff. You know what I mean? And so, I'll give you a piece of advice that I probably should have followed just a little bit harder. Good friend of mine, I won't mention his name just because he's a private guy. Really, really cool dude. He said, "Look, whatever you're going to do, go slow. Just do it slow." And I'll tell you what, having been here now for over 2.5 years, I can tell you that beyond a shadow of a doubt, he's right. Just go slow. However slow you think you need to go, just take your time going slow. You'll know if you need to go, do something in a hurry. But anyways, that's kind of one of the things that happened to me. Of course, I was at home in the U.S. December 2025, fell off a porch, broke my wrist. I came back here. It was a tenth of the cost to have the surgery. The exact same thing I would have had in the United States with the titanium plate, etc. And my orthopedic surgeon, she was incredible. And so things are going well there. I'm in physical therapy with that. And so the one thing I got to do is I got to stay out of the hospitals, right? I had a buddy of mine say, dude, man, you were a lot safer when you were in a flak jacket with an M4. I was like, yeah, that's true. But anyways, if you made it this far, I hope it helped. If you leave a comment, I'll do my best to answer those. I've got notifications turned on for comments now, I think. So I'll actually see those and get to those as they come in. So I hope everybody's doing well, and I hope this video helps. And yeah, life in the Philippines is pretty good, man. So I guess we'll see you.